Good evening. Good evening. Welcome, Darien residents, business representatives, town officials, BYO and RTM members. My name is Monica McNally, and I'm chair of the RTM Public Works Committee. It is 8:04 on February 6, 2019, and I would like to call this RTM public hearing meeting to order. I'm joined this evening by Frank Kemp. He is chair of the Town Government Structure and Administration Committee, or TGS&A for short, thankfully, and by Mac Patrick. He is chair of the RTM Public Health and Safety Committee for the RTM. There are 3 committees that are working on the plastic bag topic, and it's these 3. That's why we're here tonight. The purpose of this meeting tonight is to collect comments and constructive ideas from our community, from you, concerning the plastic bag ordinance that's under review by the RTM. Thank you for taking the time to join us tonight, or if you're watching, to tune in. We really appreciate it, and we look forward to hearing your thoughts and your opinions. Hopefully you received a key points sheet. Hold on a second. That's this. There are blue and green ones. Doesn't matter. They say the same thing. If you didn't pick one up and you would like one, please raise your hand, and Lindsay or Arpita will bring one over to you. So the Darien BYO organization originally brought the plastic bag ban topic to the Board of Selectmen. The Board of Selectmen passed a unanimous motion to move the discussion and the possible creation of an ordinance to the RTM. The RTM requested a public discussion on it, and that's why we are having a public hearing tonight. If at the conclusion of tonight's hearing, the town seems in favor of such an ordinance, the information sheet you have, this green or blue sheet, points out several key details that will be under consideration. Considerations include, should there be a mandatory charge on paper bags that is collected and kept by the business establishment? What should the minimum thickness be on a recycled bag that a store or a business establishment sells? Should there be stipulated standards on the composition of the paper bags that are offered by the stores? What should the effective date be after the approval of the ordinance? These are some of the points that we would like to hear your thoughts on. So, at this point, I need the sign-in sheets. Okay. Thanks. Okay. So, the sign-in sheets are outside, obviously. If you have not signed up to speak and you would like to, please see Lindsay. If you have prepared remarks and you would like to leave a copy for us, please hand them to Frank, who is also taking minutes tonight. Thank you, Frank. And the copy of your remarks would be greatly appreciated. And a shout out thank you to Jim Cameron for arranging for this meeting to be live streamed on Channel 79. If you are a viewer, or even if you're sitting here and you would like to communicate with the RTM, you can always send an email. The address is rtmdarien@darien.gov. Again, rtmdarien@darien.gov. That's the RTM email. Please remember that all ordinances are voted on by the full RTM. So please, not just these 3 committees. So we do the research and we present to the full RTM, but the full RTM votes. So please, you obviously have an interest on this. Let your RTM representative know where you stand. All right, the ground rules for speaking for tonight are as follows. Each speaker will be called up in order. I'm going to call 3 people at a time to keep the flow going. You will have 3 minutes. You will speak here. You will have 3 minutes to complete your remarks. There's a timer over there. You will be given one opportunity to speak, okay? And this is important because this is a public hearing. We will not be making comments or answering questions. So tonight it's solely about listening to you and how you feel about this. A couple of further comments before we start. If someone has, before you, has expressed your thoughts, please consider acknowledging your support and shortening your own remarks to save time for other speakers. Please be considerate of the 3 minutes you have and give yourself, make sure that you fit in there and you are able to complete your remarks. Please review this key point sheet to make sure your remarks are on point. Okay, so the clock is here and it'll start at 3 minutes. There will be no buzzing or anything at 30 minutes or at 30 seconds, but please keep your eye on it, okay? So I would like to start with, I'm going to ask speakers, the first 3 speakers, to come on down and maybe stand over by Jim. And when you come up to speak, please state your name and your address, okay? So we're going to start with Laura Zadowski. Next will be Susan Cater, and next will be Jeff Weiser. Nope, I'm sorry. Jeff Weiser won't be speaking. Susan will be speaking. So the third person will be Olena Gebrinik. Sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. Are you here? Yes. You're here. Okay. So if you want to make your way over here, that way we can keep the flow going. Okay? Thank you.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming to this very important meeting where we very well might make history in Darien. We are the only town in this area that does not have a plastic bag ordinance. I joined BYO back in May when I discovered on the DEEP website that all those plastic bags I was religiously putting into my single stream are in fact getting pulled out of the single stream recycling method, and they are being burned in Bridgeport, and we are breathing those fumes as they come down the coast. I was horrified because I have seen, as I'm sure you all have, the number of plastic bags that are given out every day. Well, in fact, it's much worse than you think. Every week in Darien, between the 2 Stop and Shops and the CVS, close to 60,000 plastic bags are given out. We've gotten that number from the managers. 60,000 a week. It's time that Darien stood up and made an effort to protect the environment in this beautiful town, not only to preserve it for the future for our children, but also for our daily lives to maintain this beautiful environment. But also, it's also an underpinning of our home values here. So there are 3 really good reasons for everyone to get behind this ordinance. The ordinance we're proposing is to, over a 6-month period, to ban out the plastic bags that retail establishment might already have in stock. And then after that 6-month period, phase-in period, we would then go to a 40% recycled paper bag offered for an environmental fee of 10 cents, which would defray the cost of the paper bag to the retailer. I have a vendor here, right here, who will provide those recycled paper bags for 14 cents a piece. So the retailers will still have a fee, a cost of 4 cents per bag. At this point in time, the ordinance is being considered by the 3 committees on the RTM, and we are looking for input from the town because it's very important that we have a dialogue, that people feel like they've been heard. So I encourage you to speak up tonight or send an email to the RTM. There is plenty of precedent for such an ordinance. As I said, the towns all surrounding us all have ordinances or considering ordinances. New Canaan is meeting tonight. So it is something that we all need to consider, not just for the moment, but for the future. I personally have been very involved with the restoration at Gorham's Pond, and when we clean out Gorham's Pond twice a year, the predominant item that comes out are plastic bottles and these plastic bags. If plastic bags had been on the Mayflower, they would still be here. They take over 500 years to degrade. Is this the kind of world we want to leave to our children, where we're knee-deep in plastic bags and plastic bottles and wrappers? Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. No, I lost track of time. Sorry.
It's Misha. It's been
You can start the clock now. Susan Cater, 38 Deepwood Road. I'm also the Executive Director and President of the Darien Chamber of Commerce. And so right now I'm speaking more as the Chamber of Commerce Director and President versus a resident. I think we're all in agreement that we would like to reduce the amount of plastic in our lives and our environment and have a safer, healthier community. The Chamber only recently received a copy of this ordinance. We shared it with our members. It would affect most. One or two said they already comply, and this is not a concern. One other, a local gift shop, does a significant volume of transactions, is redesigning their bags specifically because they feel a responsibility to our environment to do so, but they also can afford to do this. And they have the opportunity to do it right now with their inventory of their bags. So it won't have too much of an impact on their budget. This shop is more of an exception. Others I spoke to will be impacted significantly in a negative way by this ordinance. I'd like to illustrate. One shop has a 4 mil bag. This is a 4 mil bag. This is a reusable bag. It might not be 125 times, but it is reusable. I'd also like to say that this is 100% recyclable, and it is made from recycled plastic bottles. This is a 12 mil bag. This is what the ordinance is requiring. This 12 mil bag is 100% more in cost than a 4 mil bag. This is also an example of a very large 4 mil bag. The 12, we also have an example here of a 2.25 mil bag. This is what is allowable in Westport, the minimum. They were the first town in our area to, as I've been told, they're the first town to have an ordinance and require this. However, this is allowed, this is made from completely fresh plastic. So it is not the same quality as a bag like this. In March, in addition to the extra cost that would be a burden on a local retailer, there will be a tariff increase by our government of 15% for anything manufactured coming in out of China, and these bags come out of China. I'd also like to say that the paper bags are, that with the handles, are only made by 3 manufacturers in the United States. 2 of the 3 manufacturers require an order of 50 to 100,000. A blanket ordinance is not appropriate for a town with individually owned small businesses. We are not a cookie cutter town, and a cookie cutter ordinance will hurt our businesses. Thank you.
Okay, 2 announcements. I made a mistake. The email address for the RTM is darien@dariencT.gov. Sorry about that. So again, darien@dariencT.gov. The next three speakers, Elena, if you want to speak, and we have Cliff Van Steuben. No, Cliff. Okay, I'm Briar Bray, and Cee Cee Mar, maybe, from Person to Person, I think. Yes, right, Cee Cee. Okay, thank you. And we're going to really try to stick with the 3 minutes, okay?
Good evening. My name is Olena Zebniak. I'm residing at 29 Cherry Street here in Darien. I also work for Soundwaters, environmental educational organization right here in Holly Pond. And I would like to just bring 2 points very quickly about our work with young generation. We take our students on the beaches right after the runoffs, right after the storms and big rains, and we look at the beaches and see what all these storms are bringing to the beaches. And they're full of plastic. We pick up pounds and pounds of it, and plastic bags, single use, are the biggest culprit. Then our students are going into the middle of Long Island Sound on our research vessels, and they test the water in Holly Pond. They test it in the middle of the Sound. They test it on the beaches. They look at the animals and also test their composition, and they find microplastics in every one of these items. And inevitably, they're looking at us as their teachers and asking a question: what do we do about this? The plastic ban that Darien is proposing is not only about businesses and how 10 cents would make a difference or not. It's about changing human behavior. It's about changing our behavior. And I believe that Darien has to be at the forefront of this, just like we did with composting, which I give a lot of credit to our town for that. We should be at the forefront of that and teach our generation how to preserve and protect what we have for the future and for now. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Cliff Van Voorhees. Thank you for this opportunity to share my thoughts. I see this in the context of the many ways that we are destroying our planet. And for me, it's a moral imperative that we do whatever we can to stop environmental degradation. This is a good but small step in that direction, if you ask me. When I was a young fellow, we had bottles for milk, bottles for Coke. We brought them back. They were reused. We didn't have plastic bottles. We didn't have plastic bags, and we got along just fine. They're thought to be convenient, which they are, and cheap. Well, there are other ways we can carry our things home that are equally convenient, and cheap isn't really accurate because the cost never seems to include the environmental degradation that comes from producing them and disposing of them. When not properly disposed of, you've already heard some of the consequences, so I'll skip over that. But I will say that I see them in trees and bushes, going down storm drains. It's really an eyesore as well. On my way down Ledge Road to the transfer station yesterday, I counted 10 bags on the roadside. And guess what? We pay to have those picked up and disposed of. Last year, I had the opportunity to tour the city carting recycling center, where they take the single stream stuff, they put it through some very expensive equipment and try to sort it out. And I saw how difficult it was for them to deal with these plastic bags. So I decided that I would stop putting them in the single stream, and I would collect them. I'd try to squeeze them down and put one bag in another, and another, and another. And before I knew it, just my wife and I, because we're now empty nesters, we had a bag that was 3 feet tall and 3 feet in diameter in only 4 months. So I think that enough is enough, that we don't need these, we can get rid of them. There are better ways to do this. Sorry, skip over that because she covered that. Much of Europe, the states of California and Hawaii, many U.S. cities like Boston and Chicago, and towns like Westport and Greenwich are way ahead of us. If my time permits, I'm going to show you a couple bags that I like. We do not need plastic bags, and we should not want plastic bags because of the terrible cost to our environment. So without hesitation, I endorse enthusiastically any measure that will reduce the use of plastic bags. So let me just show you a couple here, 2 or 3, quickly.
2 seconds.
Palmer's. And in the pockets, they're easy. My wife carries one of these all over.
Hi, I'm Cee Cee Mar. I'm the Executive Director of Person to Person. Person to Person is a community-supported agency, and Darien has been an incredible supporter of Person to Person over the past 50 years. Every year, we use about 100,000 bags. We have been enormously green. We recycle. We ask for people to give us recycled bags, and we reuse them. And then clients bring them back sometimes, and mostly not, but sometimes, and we reuse them again. We are in support of this ordinance. We really believe in the environment, and that's one reason we are tremendously green. We reuse clothes, as you all know. We reuse bags. When we do the postal food drive, we have people who fold up all those bags, and we use them again. Even though 100,000 bags is going to be very difficult for Person to Person because they are expensive, I'm not saying they aren't, we are working with Skip the Plastic and BYO to make sure that we are getting at least a start, and we're going to be putting information in our database, so every time a client comes and gets a reusable bag, we'll mark it and we'll ask them to bring it back. And if they don't bring it back, they get another try. And then if they don't bring it back, they're going to have to figure something out. So we're committed to it, we're planning for it, and we're in support of it. Thank you.
Okay, the next 3 speakers, Cathy Finnegan, Lynn Brooks, and Isabel Hole.
Okay, hi, I'm Cathy Finnegan. I live at 22 Patricia Lane here in Darien. Been here a long time, 30-something years, and I'm speaking as a member of what was the Energy and Recycling Committee, which is now called the Advisory Committee on Sustainability. And perhaps some of you may know that Darien recently enrolled in a statewide voluntary certification program called Sustainable CT. Might be helpful to understand the purpose of that program in relationship to deliberations on this ordinance. The purpose of Sustainable CT is to recognize thriving and resilient Connecticut municipalities. It's independently funded, it's grassroots, and generally speaking, its aim is to empower communities to create, and these are the keywords, high collective impact programs or policies for current and future residents. They provide tools for communities that register and participate, including a menu of best practices that individual communities choose from. There are big cities, there are small towns, and from that list of over 70 actions, municipalities choose to implement certain ones and earn points towards certification, bronze, silver, maybe someday gold. There are opportunities for partnerships with organizations like Nature Conservancy, economic development organizations, the Sustainable Energy Program at Eastern Connecticut State University, and there's grant funding for registrants of the program who are trying to implement different kinds of activities in their community. And right now there are 70 communities registered. over 70. There are 22 that have received certification already. This program started last year, but Greenwich, Stamford, Westport, and Fairfield all received certification in their first year as they submitted their first applications. And to achieve certification, you have to document the actions that are provided by Sustainable CT. You pick and choose from a menu, and they're grouped into things like dynamic and resilient planning, well-stewarded land and natural resources, and efficient physical infrastructure and operations, which is where waste management would probably fall. There are others like thriving local communities, vibrant cultural and creative cultural ecosystems, strategic initiatives, and things like that. And it's really beautiful because the definition expands well beyond that of just environmental resiliency, but the resiliency of a community in its whole. After speaking to our own advisory committee, the Board of Selectmen that passed a resolution to register us, and several of the certified towns, there are probably 3 major benefits. One is access to the best practices. There are the human and financial resources grants, fellows that we can ask to come to our community to help us. And there is a framework for all of us, whether it's person to person or the Chamber of Commerce. Who am I supposed to reach out to very soon? We're really just rolling off the ground to work in a common framework. And basically, to the certification really gives Darien a competitive edge when families and businesses consider where to settle by highlighting where we are at the forefront of forward-thinking ideas in the area.
Good evening. My name is Lynn Brooks. I live at 33 Catalpa Terrace. 29 years ago, I co-founded the Darien Environmental Group. The mission of the group is to educate Darien residents about ways in which they can change their consumer and lifestyle habits to benefit the environment. From its inception, one of the group's goals was to reduce plastic and paper bag use. One of our early efforts was to supply every retailer in Darien with tent cards reading, "Can you do without a bag?" Retailers enthusiastically displayed these signs. This was 29 years ago. And yet, here we are, still talking about, but not acting on this issue. Another effort involved offering recyclable shopping bags at cost to Darien residents. I purchased 10. This is one of those bags. 29 years later, and still in use. If you multiply my 29 years of grocery shopping with these reusable bags, times 52 weeks per year, times, conservatively, 5 bags of groceries per week, I have personally removed 7,500 bags from production and waste stream. One person, 7,500 bags. I implore you to approve the ordinance for management of plastic and paper checkout bags as soon as possible. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Isabel Hole, 108 Long Neck Point Road. I am a senior at Darien High School. I'm on the board of the Darien High School Eco-Citizens Club. I intern at Soundwaters, which was mentioned. And I'm doing an environmental research project this year with the University of Connecticut that will be presented in a couple months, and my data will hopefully be used to help protect Gorham's Pond. I just want to start out by saying I fully support the ordinance, and I think it is something that needed to happen yesterday. Environmental crisis is just that in our day and age. It's a crisis. I think the fact that action hasn't been taken already is a huge issue, and like it was mentioned, action really starts on a local level. So this is a great change, but it shouldn't be viewed as something small. It should be viewed as the bridge to something that's going to be bigger. If all the local movements start up, then actual change will happen. And the crisis is coming in fast. Within my generation, within my lifetime, just at itself, huge change and detrimental environmental effects could occur. And I don't want that to happen. I don't want my kids to live in a place where the whole world is polluted. I'm just going to read off some stats that help motivate me to support this ordinance. So 32% of plastic packaging each year goes directly into the ocean. We live on the ocean. That's a huge issue. And at the current rate, there's going to be more plastic than fish in the ocean by 2050. That's going to affect us directly. Another huge issue with the plastic bags, not just by wasting them and them not being recycled, is that when plastic bags go to landfills and they sit there, a liquid form of toxic materials forms up in the landfills and goes directly into the ocean. It's directly polluting the Long Island Sound right now. My kids won't be able to swim in the Long Island Sound at the current rate that it's happening. And like it's been mentioned, we want to appreciate the beauty of the place that we live in and be able to enjoy it. So we need to take significant action. Like it's been mentioned, Europe has banned all single-use plastics, which will go into effect in 2021. And across Europe, they've been charging small amounts like 10, 15 cents per bag, and that is something that could be used in our town specifically. And this charge would not just be to inconvenience businesses or to inconvenience people, and although it's small, there's a point to that, because the point is just to get people thinking about it, thinking about keeping the bag in your car, thinking about bringing it in, thinking about the difference that you can make. Like it's been said, that's over 7,000 bags per one person. If that's multiplied by an entire town, by the entire state, by the entire country, that could be millions and millions of bags that are saved. It would also promote cashiers to expect reusable bags instead of immediately offering single-use ones. I just hope that our town can pass this so that we can make a small change to help our community in the greater issue of environmental change. Thank you.
Our next three speakers, Bruce Orr, Joe Warren, and Annie Roberts.
I'll probably get shot after this anyway, so it doesn't matter. Jim has given me extra 15 seconds because I mentioned him. Good evening. I'm Bruce Orr, 4 Nolan Lane. I thank the RTM committees for hosting this public hearing. I'm a former RTM member, having served this body for over 8 years, and was a member of the Board of Finance for 5 years. 6 years ago, on January 23rd, 2012, as a member of the RTM, I spoke in opposition to the then proposed ban on retail plastic bags, which was put forth by a group, Choose to Reuse. While I supported the basic principles proposed by the organization, namely the reuse and recycling, I could not support the ordinance. Today, I continue to be in opposition of the proposed ordinance based on a number of well-researched facts. For background and transparency, I'm a biologist, and I've spent my entire career in the energy, chemicals, biorenewables, and yes, the recycling industry. Contrary to what the previous speaker from Sound Waters and the high school said, some fact-based points about the sources of plastic waste for the committees to consider. The U.S. EPA in 2014 reports that plastic bag litter accounts for less than 0.05% of America's waste stream. None of Darien's non-recyclable refuse, including plastic bags, goes into landfills. It all goes to the Wheelabrator Bridgeport Waste-to-Energy plant, generating 67 megawatts of energy, powering 60,000 homes in Fairfield County. Over half of the land-based plastic waste leakage from our ocean comes from just 5 countries: China, Indonesia, Philippines, Vietnam, and Thailand. And 90% of the river-based plastics flowing to our ocean comes from only 10 rivers in Asia, South America, Africa. These rivers have 2 common traits: a generally high population in surrounding area, in some cases hundreds of millions of people, and the lack of waste management systems in the infrastructure. In summary, the macro overarching problems and challenging of plastic waste are not in Fairfield County or Darien, but in the developing world economies. Furthermore, replacing plastics with alternative materials could raise environmental costs nearly 4-fold. We read and hear about climate change every day, including today. While fully recyclable, the manufacture and distribution of paper bags has 4 times the carbon footprint of greenhouse gases carbon footprint or greenhouse gas emissions. Huge amounts of energy and water are consumed in the growing and the manufacturing, and the transportation emissions only adds to the poor carbon footprint of paper. Furthermore, grocers who offer paper checkout bags often double bag, only exasperating the problem. And lastly, as informed and educated citizens, we should make our responsible, fact-based decisions regarding our local and global environment. As Jim Cameron said once, democracy is a great institution, and our elected volunteers here should be applauded for tackling important community issues. But they should not be legislating on what appears to be a symbolic gesture rather than substantive solutions to perceived environmental concerns. Bring your reusable bags with you to the store. Choose to reuse your paper and plastic bags and recycle everything you can. And let's work with constituents to promote infrastructure, education, engagement, and clean up the plastic waste in the right place. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Joe Warren. I reside at 410 West Avenue here in Darien, and I have been here in Darien forever. I also happen to own a retail store on Heights Road here in Darien, and I use both plastic and paper bags. And to be very honest with you, I could care less whether this ordinance gets passed or not. My problem is this ordinance does not address the problem. It is simply a Band-Aid solution for what we perceive is a big problem. There is a problem. The problem is not at Palmer's, it's not at Stop and Shop, it's in Bridgeport. The fact that any of these bags cannot be recycled is simply unacceptable. And we as a town, we as a state, have to put pressure on the powers that be to understand why they refuse to recycle these products. We've learned to recycle all kinds of things, and yet this particular thing we are told over and over again, we don't have the equipment to do it, it jams up our equipment, it is not economically feasible. I refuse to accept that answer. Second of all, the issue of plastic overall is the single-use plastic bags are just a drop in the bucket. They're not the fundamental problem. The only problem with them is that Bridgeport won't recycle them. They burn them instead. We need to correct the problem at the source. If we're serious about removing plastic from the stream, we need to look at things like those silly tabs on the milk cartons that nobody recycles. People pull that tab out of the milk carton, throw it in the garbage, and who cares where it winds up? And that's by the thousands. We don't need it at all. Why they put that on the milk cartons and the juice cartons is completely beyond me. We were fine when we just simply opened the side of the carton and formed a pour spout. If we're going to, my time is up, if we're going to address this problem, this ordinance is not the way to do it. We have to address the problem on a much larger scale. Yes, we in Darien can begin the process, but we have to look at a bigger picture.
Hi, my name is Annie Roberts. I live at 5 Overbrook Lane in Darien. Aren't we lucky to live in a coastal community? I don't know about you, but I take advantage. I sail, I get out in the water, I swim, I'm out there all the time. I think that's why we all love living in a coastal community. But part of being part of a coastal community is also stewardship. We also have to take responsibility of our coastal community. And our neighbors have done that. Westport, Norwalk, Stamford, it's happening all around us. And here we are, a coastal community, isolated, not taking initiative on protecting our coastal areas. Change, it's hard. Nobody likes change. When I spoke to the manager at Stop and Shop, I asked him, how did it go over? Because he had just come down from Westport. He just transferred to Darien. He said, oh, it was really easy. It wasn't that difficult. It was sort of a natural thing. So this is not a difficult change. Though we all know transitions are difficult. What we also know is that the only constant, the only reliable thing in our lives is change. So let's embrace this change. Let's make this happen, Darien. We can do it. Here's my bag. It's small. It fits in my purse. Like that. I have my groceries. We can do this!
The next three speakers, Diane Brown, Kate Dempsey, and Cristin Jordan.
Good evening. My name is Diane Brown. I'm the owner of Brown & Company, 865 Post Road. I haven't been here forever, but I've been here for 15 years. And we do not have plastic bags, and so that's not the part of the ordinance that I have an issue with. This way. Sorry. We use paper bags. My concern is what kind of paper bags we're going to be allowed to use. So as a store, we spend about $30,000 a year on paper bags. So I've already talked to 3 of my purveyors, and nobody carries the kind of bags that are in this ordinance. And they said, and if they do get them, if they can get them, it's about a 15% increase, which is close to $5,000 a year. And having a small business is tough enough, and our profit margins get smaller and smaller every year. So $5,000 is not nothing. So I think that's the only thing as a business owner that I wanted to say this does affect us. Thank you.
Hello, I am a senior at Darien High School. I would like to take a step into the future for a moment to 2519. By this time, parts of Africa, South America, and India have an average temperature of 110 degrees in the summer, killing thousands from the heat. Thousands of species of birds, mammals, insects, and amphibians have been lost. Future generations will never see the Great Barrier Reef as it no longer exists. 13 million Americans will become climate refugees as rising sea level has engulfed more and more of the American coastline. And in the time that all of this has taken place, that one plastic bag used for groceries has finally decomposed. The bag was not recycled. It was left in a larger pile of pollution, which continued to contaminate the surrounding area. One bag could be responsible for a bird dying, for releasing microplastics into food, and for making the air more toxic. It is necessary that we take our part in preventing such harm to our environment, one bag at a time. This is not about paper versus plastic. Just because, as someone has mentioned earlier, just because 5 other countries take up a more significant amount of the use of plastic, that does not mean we don't take a part in helping as well. Bridgeport is a problem, but we should address both. Our purchasing is still a source of this continuing problem. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Cristin Jordan, and I live at 19 Renshaw Road. And I just want to say I fully support this ordinance. Anything to reduce our plastic, I think, is really important. I want to talk just a little bit about some statistics that haven't been touched on. Researchers estimate there's 500 billion bags around the globe each year. And as you know, it can take centuries to decompose. It's estimated that there's 270,000 tons of plastic floating through the world's seas, where it threatens 700 marine species. Some of the health issues that are caused by these plastic bags are toxins that are related to cancer, birth defects, immune system problems, and child development issues. So it doesn't just leak into the soil, it goes into our water, and it goes into the fish that we eat. So there's different chemicals that interfere with hormones. It's a serious issue, and I hope that we will do our part to eliminate plastic. Thank you.
The next three speakers, Jessica Cordo, Megan Dempsey, Leslie McCarty.
Hi everyone, I'm Jessica Cadieux, 94 Leroy Avenue. I want to start off by saying that this is kind of a drop in the bucket. Our family tries to do a lot of other things. We don't take plastic straws. We don't have any plastic toys at home for our daughter. You have to start somewhere. For the majority of history, we as humans have managed to do without plastic bags. This is not something new. Plastic bags have only been popular for about 35 years. If we figured it out for all of humankind until then, we can figure it out again. I know there are some small stores that have some concerns with this, and I can appreciate that. I just think we can figure this out. I'll talk a little bit about the 10-cent charge. Just from a practical standpoint, I think it's completely reasonable for a business to charge us for something that we're taking for them. So as a consumer, I completely understand and would not have a problem with that. And then from a more personal note, I think we really don't connect with our environment anymore. We don't really see the plastic in the ocean except for this woman who's taking the children to the ocean and see all that, like that's great. We don't notice the microplastics in the fish. We don't see what we're breathing in from the incineration of these plastic bags. For me, that 10 cents or whatever the charge ends up being is my reminder, like, oh shoot, like I'm doing this, like I'm contributing in a bad way to the pollution of our environment. And we need to reconnect. We need to remember the impact that we're having. And someone mentioned, and I thought about this too, about how you're driving around and you see these plastic bags on the side of the road. I had actually become immune to it. I heard about this bill and then about this proposal, and I started noticing it again. And I realized who's really noticing it is my 2.5-year-old daughter. We live right near Tilly Pond, and we're walking all the time around that area. And for over 1.5 years now, we're walking down the street. Uh-oh, mommy, pick up. Uh-oh, what's that? Pick up. And I thought, she's not immune to this. The children, they see this mess that we're making. We don't see it. And the past week, I heard about this, and I'm now starting to see it again. And it's just a reminder. We need to reconnect with the environment, realize that we're polluting it. This is a small step. It's the right step in the right direction, and we should be on the forefront of it. So that's it.
Hi, I'm Megan Dempsey, and I'm in favor of the plastic bag ban. How many of you see trash on the side of the road or dispose of on sidewalks on your commute, whether to work or school? How many of you see garbage in the town's environment, such as the parks and beaches? How many of you are saddened by seeing these things? This sadness is the reason why there needs to be action taken to eliminate the damage plastic bags cause. The pollution of them is so enormous that you can't simply go a day without seeing it and questioning why there is litter there in the first place. And here we are with the opportunity to do something about it. We must take this opportunity to change what we are doing now so we don't see further consequences. I would like to point out a couple of things on how exactly plastic bags and plastic overall affects the environment and even ourselves. Marine organisms consume plastics in our oceans. These chemicals can make their way through the ocean's food web and then into humans who eat fish and other marine organisms. And scientists are already finding microplastics in our systems. Plastic bags tend to get caught in recycling machinery, and most recycling facilities do not have the capacity to recycle plastic bags. Therefore, they do not accept them, or as mentioned, they are burned. As a result, the actual recycling rate of plastic bags is about 5%, and the rest ends up in landfills. The cost of plastic bag cleanup is about 17 cents per bag, and on average, taxpayers end up paying about $88 per year just on plastic bag waste.
Implementing this ban could be powerful for this town. It's not just symbolic. We have a say in what we want the bigger picture of this world to be, and it starts here. Thank you.
I'm Leslie McCarthy, 6 Lantern Lane. I come as a mother of 3 young adults, and I'm so happy to hear the voices of others who are at the high school. I stand here in support of the importance of reusing bags and this project, as also a co-chair of the conservation group within the Garden Club of Darien. We've lived here for 25 years, and quite frankly, I'm embarrassed by the extent of waste in our trash cans. So as I think about this, in terms of traveling to a variety of different places around the world, you see much more mindfulness in terms of thinking each day about waste and usage. Examples include small trash cans, the use of linen napkins or cloth napkins or dish towels, for example, in France. So I guess I'm moving in this direction of really encouraging everyone to take charge of their personal responsibility in this type of consumption. And I have some tips that are just easy to implement on a regular basis that I find helpful. One is bring your own bags to the store. Keep them in your car, hang them on your back door before you leave the house in the morning. Choose food items that are not wrapped in individual plastic, such as oranges and fruits and vegetables, which will also help you to eat a little more healthfully. Avoid using some of the produce bags in the supermarket and bring your own way of carrying that produce before checkout. Try not to use plastic film in your refrigerator food. You can use glass containers. You can cover with a plate, a bowl, or a dish towel to keep things fresh. Carry a multi-use water bottle instead of buying plastic bottles. Example is there's a machine which is called SodaStream. You can make your own seltzer out of tap water. Save plastic usage by composting. Kits are available right outside, which is a new process that our family is getting used to, which will be less garbage. You can sign up for curbside compost pickup, and you can use a bin to take this easily to the dump. Avoid using straws. Do we even need straws? Or if you do like straws, you can use a reusable straw because they're really not even necessary. Take your kid's backpack or book bag to and from the market. Use a cup, a reusable cup on a regular basis when you go to buy coffee. Go to the dry cleaner and inquire as to whether or not you can carry your own garment bag and identify whether there's a way to get your dry cleaning if you're receiving it delivered without the extra plastic bags. And as noted, buy milks and juices in glass bottles and then return, or eggs in recycled paper cartons. There's a direct impact. I'm keeping my eyes on the next generation as they enter into this changing landscape and take one step at a time. Thank you.
The next 3 people, Jean Sweeney, Bob Mazzoni, maybe, he's a maybe, and Lila Wetmore, and Juliet Kane.
Hello, I'm Jean Sweeney. I live at 2 Lighthouse Way here in Darien. I fully support the ordinance. I support the 10 cents and also the 12 millimeter weight of the bags. But when I was speaking to one of the gals about this ordinance, I spoke to her and she said that the plastic bags that we wrap that come from the dry cleaners are exempt from this ordinance. So I spoke to my dry cleaner, and what they said to me is we can ask our dry cleaner for a recyclable garment bag, that they all have them, and that we can put our dry cleaning in this recyclable garment bag, and they will return our clean clothes in the recyclable garment bag, and we do not have to use the plastic bags from the dry cleaner. Even though it's exempt from the ordinance, in our personal walk to try to lessen our footprint, carbon footprint, and in our daily practice of trying to be more mindful, I'm trying very hard, and I think this will help change, the ordinance will help change behavior, but we can also today change our behavior regarding the dry cleaning. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Bob Mazzoni, and I live at 2620 Boston Post Road. Maybe just to react to some of the things that I've heard tonight, for the record, I am in favor of banning plastic bags. One, it is supposed to be hard. It's not going to be easy. Somebody alluded to the difficulty of change. It is supposed to be hard. If it's not, we won't change. Okay? Second, the idea that we live in a bubble and that we can blame plastics in Long Island Sound and the impact on our local environment and the impact on our health on 4 countries in Southeast Asia is, I think, misguided. Okay? We are both the cause of the problem. And if you think about it, we live as furthest downstream. So it all impacts us. Plastic floats around in a huge garbage patch in the Pacific Ocean. That plastic, 500 years from now, could be floating on our beaches. You can't see it. You can't taste it. But it's there. And then it is a huge problem. When you want to pull the environmental thread, it's going to be like, it's going to be like unraveling a sweater. But the idea that banning plastic bags in Darien, Connecticut is a wasted effort is, I think, also missing the point. Because we have to start, or we'll never finish. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Lila Wetmore, 217 Middlesex Road, and I am enthusiastically in support of an ordinance that helps us reduce the use of single-use plastic bags. And I think that it's a small step, but it's a significant step that we could take. And I want to address my personal and enthusiastic support and love for our local businesses, and my respect for what it means for them to do business here and to support us as citizens. And I know that I enthusiastically support those who have made a decision to remove plastic from their sales exchange. Chris Barker at the Gardner Center has made that choice, and I'm proud to talk about that. I'm proud to shop there and know that he's made that commitment, and that he is risking maybe spending a little bit more money, but my responsibility is to the environment and it's to our community. And I will support enthusiastically our businesses, and I think our whole town would do the same. We don't want the burden to fall on our businesses. I think it is easy enough to bring our own bags. We can do it. I really do believe that. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Juliet Kane, 81 Locust Hill Road. I'm one of the co-chairs of BYO Darien, and for the record, I support this ordinance. So I just wanted to say a couple of things just in reaction to some of the comments that have been made. First of all, this ordinance was never intended to be a cookie-cutter ordinance. At the time it was written, it was ahead of its time. We researched other towns, other cities, and we came up with what we thought was the best type of ordinance. And it was. Unfortunately, Norwalk and Stamford ran ahead of us, and they now have the best ordinances, and we're hoping that we'll catch up with them. It's not cookie cutter. We reached out to as many businesses as we could during most of last summer to get input into this ordinance, and we reflected the comments that we received from them. The mill requirement, for example, is a carefully thought out and researched requirement. The purpose of the 12 mil requirement is to ensure that plastic carry-out bags are in fact eliminated. Westport, for example, has a very low mil requirement, and the result of that is that there is a whole industry now that's grown up creating bags that end run that ordinance and defeat the purpose of cleaning up our environment. I also want to agree with the gentleman who spoke and said that paper was as bad as plastic. We totally agree with that. And that's why our ordinance, the purpose of our ordinance, is to promote reusable bags, not paper. We would propose to eliminate plastic and non-recycled paper bags. We have proposed a charge, an environmental charge, as we call it, on recycled paper, because that is intended to deter people from taking them. So right now, somebody mentioned Trader Joe's, Whole Foods, you not only get a recycled paper bag, you get two. And it's all free, apparently. But it isn't. It's costing the environment. You pay for it because it's in your cost of goods. You just don't see the charge. And in relation to statistics, it's very easy to throw out statistics that would suggest that America, the US, isn't responsible for any of this. But when you walk on Weed Beach, Pear Tree Point, Gorham's Pond, and you see the amount of plastic and waste that washes up there, someone's responsible for it. I don't think it all came here from China. And this isn't a Band-Aid. It isn't a feel-good effort. This is starting somewhere. This is trying to make a difference. Who knows? Maybe people will be encouraged to suggest more items to put into this. The ordinance is intended to be a collaborative effort. We can embrace change. We've lived without Blockbuster for years. We've lived without video cassettes. We've lived without tape cassettes. We can live without plastic. We can live without paper. Thank you.
Our next three speakers, Rhonda Sherwood, Gunnar Edelstein, Sue Oki, and Linda Goodyear will be our last person.
Hi, I'm Rhonda Sherwood. I live at 245 Long Neck Point Road. And I also own a retail shop on Greenwich Avenue in Greenwich. And I'd like to talk about the shop first. It has not been difficult for our shop to offer only paper bags, mainly because most of our customers don't take bags. They seem to bring totes of their own, and I would say over 50% of them, now albeit I'm not a grocer, aren't using bags at all, and I think that behavior would occur in Darien as well. Also, I heard someone say when I stepped in, and I might be misquoting this, but something about the minimum order requirement for bags being 100,000 bags, and where I buy bags from, the minimum order is 100 bags per order. I also have the great privilege of living right on Long Island Sound. I have a beach, and I have a picture that I took this summer, not because I thought that we were going to try and pass a plastic bag ban, because I was on that committee 6 years ago, and it absolutely exhausted me. Here's the picture of my beach, of a bag that I took. You can see the Norotan Yacht Club in the background. every week I make a point of going to that beach and picking up the garbage, and it makes me sad. I'm from Chicago originally. We moved here in 1999, and I can remember when I was a little girl, we would go to Lake Michigan in the state of Michigan, and at some point we weren't allowed to swim in the lake anymore. And the reason is because fish were dying, and it was disgusting, and it was unhealthy, not to mention the fact that the values of the properties there were declining. I feel as anyone who lives in Darien, our greatest asset is Long Island Sound. And without that, I can guarantee you the commute to New York City won't matter because we won't want to live on the Sound. As they say, if pollution is caused by man, we can prevent it. And I'd also like to close with this thought that is, if your bathtub is running over, you don't reach for the mop. You turn off the faucet. And that's why I'm very much in favor of this ordinance. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Gunnar Edelstein. I live at 118 Colony Road. Been here in town for 36 years. And I know that change doesn't come easy, but this is, I fully support the ordinance. And being a local realtor, I come in contact with a lot of young families coming here to town, and one of the first places we always go is down to Weed Beach and then over to Pear Tree Point. And I can tell you 100% every one of these folks are just so impressed with the town of Darien, and we really, if for no other reason at all, anything we can do to make this town better, if this makes the town better, then we all should be 100% for it. No questions. My sister lives in Cambridge, Mass, and I believe they charge 10 cents for a bag when you go into the stores there. All it takes is maybe once, the first time you have to pay the dime, it's like, oh, doggone it. The second time, use some more stronger language, but that's pretty much all it takes is about 2 times that you get hit with that little charge, and you can change the behavior, and it doesn't take very long. And my wife's sister lives in Bethesda, Maryland. They have the same thing, and we're down there a couple times a year, and also in Boston a couple times a year. And now, my brother-in-law is probably the cheapest guy you'll ever meet in this world. He is so tight-fisted, it's unbelievable. So my sister-in-law, when we're in the store, she goes, if I have to pay for a plastic bag, Jay's going to kill me. So, you know, it doesn't take that long to learn the behavior. It's very easy. I'm surprised it's taken 29 years to get to this point. So anyway, you got to start somewhere, so this is the time. So let's just do it and get it over with and get on with it.
Hi, I'm Sue Oakey. I grew up in town. I raised 4 children in town who are all very enthusiastic environmentalists. It is easy to have reusable bags in your trunk. You get in the habit. I've done it for years. This is not a tough thing. I am very in favor of this ordinance. In fact, I'm kind of disappointed it doesn't include straws and styrofoam. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Linda Goodyear. I don't speak in public, so you really don't hear me. But I used to be head of the Green Team here in Darien, which is an organization of at least 18 environmental groups in this town that work so hard to keep this town the wonderful town it is. And I just want to say that we tried, as Bruce Orr said, 6 years ago to pass this. And it didn't work, but you know what? We can do it ourselves. We can do it. It's so simple, and you don't need to pass an ordinance, but you should, just to, make it all very legal. And we had a whole group of gals working and guys working, and we went to every store manager in town, and they all supported the idea of banning the plastic bag. Okay, that may not be our answer, but our answer is just bring your bag with you. It's so easy. It's right there in your car. I've carry my one for 20 years, and everyone has worked so hard to do it, and we should be able to do it here in town. Woodland Park, Selleck's Woods, the Nature Center, all these wonderful places that have worked so hard to keep Darien the wonderful place it is, and picking up the trash along the road. Yay, bring your bag along as you take a walk and put the trash in it. I did it for years here in Darien. In fact, I had a good friend, Woody Spurgeon, who made me a wooden stick with a nail on the end, and I could walk and pick up all the sticks. So I just want to encourage you all to really reuse, pass the ordinance just to, kind of make it official. And, we're going to have we have a beautiful town. Keep it going. And you can learn to bring your bag. And thank you all for coming tonight. And everybody in this town works very hard to keep this the great town it is. So let's support our environmental organizations. And really, they are there at least 18 or more, and they work so hard. So anyway, that's it, everybody. Think positive. Bring your bag.
I have two more speakers, Bill Jensen and Jody Bishop.
Thank you. I'm Bill Jensen, Darien Toy Box, 1064 Post Road. For the record, my gift wrap is somebody's old newspaper or magazine. It's recycled 100%. My bags are not. They are white craft paper, recyclable, not recycled. I do not use plastic. I have very little trash coming from the house. I don't understand why people have bags and bags of trash. At Pear Tree Point, or Weed Beach, when I walk, I pick up plastic bottles. Plastic bags aren't the problem here. This is the problem. This is a huge problem. The U.S. produces 56 million tons of this a year. We only recycle 9%. Before we pass a plastic ordinance, let's educate our people of what is behind the plastic ordinance. There's 7 different types of plastic. Some cannot be recycled at all. In fact, every single one of us has stopped by a coffee shop in town and walked out with a styrofoam or polystyrofoam coffee cup that can never be recycled. They are landfill forever and ever. So that's a different thing. On the paper, imposing a 10-cent charge on your customers is irrelevant. For the past 10 days, I've been asking my customers. One gave me a very dirty word and asked for 2 bags, for 2 gifts for her grandkids. Everybody else had said, absolutely not. Don't tell me about it because I'll feel cheated. Stores are very different, local stores, from a huge supermarket or a chain. Somebody wants to pick a fight with plastic, go pick a fight with Home Depot or Stop and Shop. Don't pick a fight with your local merchants who also live here. Again, most of us do not use plastic, we use paper. Forcing us to go 20% higher on a certain type of paper bag from one specific vendor is not competitive, it's not legal. I should be allowed, and all the other retailers allowed, to pick whoever they buy from, provided that it's recyclable or recycled. A little bit different. We are the cause of the mess. My generation, when I'm 64 next week, we're the ones that screwed up. The millennials, hats off to the high school kids because they really, really put a lot of effort into it. They know more than we do. And they'll take care of that solution for themselves. We have to take care of our own trash. Plastic up to each other. Who's going to police this? Somebody said the town hall should have an enforcement officer. That's not going to happen. I don't want the mill rate at my house down the street to go up because I have to pay a police officer to come and tell me how many bags I'm using or how many have I charged the customer. It won't work. And who's going to charge a penalty and a fee for me? And my time's up. Thank you.
Is Jody Bishop here? Did you change your mind? It's okay. It's been said. Okay. All right. Is there anyone else here that wishes to speak that didn't sign up?
Hi, everyone. My name is Paola Sardoni. I'm one of the co-chairs of BYO Darien. Not necessary to say that I'm in favor of. So I'm sorry, I have a cold, so my voice is not the best. So retailers, the good news to you is that the fee will go back to you, for you to subsidize the cost of the bags. And also, research has proven that once people see the fee on their receipt, they remember to bring the reusable bags. So in California, once they start charging the fee, 72% of people start bringing their reusable bags. In New Zealand, just like in December, 80% of people start bringing their reusable bags. So the fee really works. The opposite, the reward or the return of 10 cents that the Whole Foods give to people do not remind people to bring their own bags. And also, at the end of the day, once they start paying for that, they start bringing their own bags, you, retailer, will have to provide less bags, no more. Less bags, because people will remember. We are working here to change the behavior and remind people to bring their own bags. And the only way to achieve that is with the fee on the paper bag. So we, the United States, we are 5% of the world's population. We consume 35% of the world's natural resource yearly. So is that, I agree with everyone who said that the problem is in so many other things too. Is that the water bottle, is on the straws, is something like unnecessary, is the styrofoam. There are so many other problems, but changing one behavior at a time, we are going to achieve a big thing. But if we don't ever start, we're not going to achieve anything. My daughter, my 7-year-old, she said, "Mom, I want to go there, and I have something to say." I said, "Well, I'm sorry, but it's 7 years, and it's going to be past your bedtime." And she said, "Mom, I know that these plastic bags are being burned, and everything goes to the atmosphere, and then it comes to the water, and kills the coral reefs. My kids are not going to see the coral reefs. So, I had to tell them that." And I told her I was going to tell it. So thank you so much, and please do this for our children.
Absolutely.
Signed up. I don't quite understand why it wasn't recognized. Andy Millar. I oppose this ordinance, and that is probably not atypical for me, since I typically represent unpopular positions. I'd like to explain my thinking and hope that you will allow me to speak with dignity and without interruption. First of all, we really like the checkout bags, the plastic bags. They're really excellent for taking out our trash. We'll just have to go and buy plastic trash bags in a roll to replace the plastic bags from the supermarkets. Secondly, the ordinance is involuntary and, in my opinion, fundamentally coercive. It provides no option for individual choice and is therefore unjust to us and to our local businesses. Thirdly, it provides no funding. The ordinance asks citizens to pay for the preferences of its supporters. Fourthly, this ordinance is likely to be superseded by a state law that will ban all checkout bags, no matter what their materials, and eliminate local ordinances. Instead, I have a couple other ideas. First, rather than reaching into our pockets, I suggest that the supporters of the ordinance reach into their own pockets to purchase the bags from the merchants, so that those of us who like them continue to have them at no cost. However, if that doesn't appeal to you, then I suggest a $2 surcharge on each reusable bag that would then create a fund to pay the merchants for the bags for those who want them. Finally, if supporters are really concerned about the environment and about our children, I suggest that the supporters devote their energy and their funds to addressing the geese that are all over our parks and beaches and school grounds. I think they're the real crisis. Thank you for listening and for allowing me to speak.
Hi, my name is Heather Drugi. I didn't think I'd make it. I was coming from the jazz concert tonight, which was wonderful. I am so proud to live in Darien. I'm also very proud to be following in the footsteps of many people interested and working in this town for the environment. And I'm very much in favor for this step. I think it's timely, and to help those who don't have a bag, the Darien Environmental Group has bags outside the door that you're welcome to have to help Darien break this bag habit. Be fantastic. Don't use plastic. It was our educational program for the K through 5 last year, and this year it skipped the straw, but we've got bags out there because it's still a very hot topic. But we'd like to move on to the other topics once this bag one is behind us. Thank you so much.
Is there anyone else that wants to speak that didn't sign up? Okay.
Hello, my name is Ginger Morgan. I live at 1 Peach Hill. And as I think about the bags, I think about 10 minutes. And think of how long we've been here tonight. And on average, when you go to the grocery store, when you go and pick up something at CVS, you get a number of bags. You walk home and you take your item out and put them in probably your recyclables that they shouldn't be in because they're not going to be recycled. The average bag is 10 minutes. And yet we're talking because we can't take the time to walk a recyclable bag, or even Costco. I go to Costco, I've never complained that they don't hand me a bag. I figure out how to work around it. I go to Trader Joe's. I've never said, I can't believe you don't have plastic bags. We adapt. I remember when I lived here and they started thinking they were going to charge 5 cents for recyclable water bottles. And we thought, that's crazy. Why are they putting a surcharge on it? But it changed our behaviors, and we started taking those bottles and we started putting them in the recyclable containers. And we asked our kids to take their water bottles off the sports. And we made changes probably because there was a 5 cent, and other people went around and gathered those things. So sometimes it takes something to make change. And if it takes us 10 cents, I'm sorry that some of our businesses have to incur, but I think that we'll all benefit. And so I hope you think about that 10 minutes and you look at your week. And I wish that over the course of the last week, I'd saved every bag. When I went to the pharmacy, when I went to the grocery store, when I went to the clothing store, everywhere I went, I got plastic bags and I didn't take one of them back. And I did buy, every time I went to the store, recyclable bags for other things if they offered them. but I didn't remember to take them back. And it may take something like a 10-cent charge to make me remember. So remember the 10 minutes and remember the 10 cent and think about whether it's really worth it for you.
Okay, anyone else wish to speak? No? Okay. Emails, again, to Darien RTM at darienconnect.gov. Sorry, I got that wrong before. Are greatly appreciated and will be taken into consideration until March 1st. This will ensure that they are part of the discussion before any draft ordinance is prepared. On the back of that green or blue sheet that we handed out to you, there are instructions on how to access the town website and find information on the ordinance procedure along with the RTM address. I'd like to conclude tonight by thanking everyone that watched and listened, but especially everyone that spoke. Your voices are important and they were heard. Thank you. Do I hear a motion to adjourn? Second? Thank you. Meeting adjourned.